One of the biggest mistakes Brazilian EB-5 investors make often happens before they even file their petition, and may do not even realize they are creating the problem for themselves. That mistake is called Commingled funds. Now, this term may sound technical, but in the real world, it's actually very human. In simple language, commingled funds means your B5 investment money becomes mixed together with other money in a way that makes it hard to clearly prove where your specific B5 capital comes from. Or, in very simple, your money may be completely lawful, but if you create a finance mess, proving that lawful story becomes hard. And this matters because USIS does not only ask, does this investor have enough money? USIS wants to know where exactly did this EB5 monies come from and can I clear trace it? The difference is critical. This is where many Brazilian investors accidentally create avoidable risk. In Brazil, especially among entrepreneurs, business owners, and families with a layers finance structure, it is extremely common to move money natural between personal accounts, company accounts, family transfer, real estate procedure, dividend distribution, operation cash flow, or temporary liquidity adjustment. Here in Brazil, it's more common than you imagine. From the investor's perspective, this is feel normal. They thought themselves, it's my money, I do whatever I want. And in many cases, that may true. But for USIS perspective, once your intent to EB5 capital become mixed with multiple unrelated transaction, the clarities of your finance story may be weakened. And EB5 clarity matter. Let's use a real world example. Imagine you sell a property, maybe apartment in São Paulo and receive a 5 million reais. Excellent. That property sale could potentially serve as a strong lawful source of fund. But instead of preserve that money clearly, you deposit those proceeds in for your general business operation account. Inside that same account are daily company revenue, employee payroll, vendor payment, loan cash, maybe cash deposit, family transfer, tax payment, and already transaction. Now, your original clear property sale receipt are blended into the much larger pool of financial activity. So, when you SIS later ask which exactly fund become the EB5 investment, your answer may become more complex. Not necessarily because your wealth is unlawful, but because your traceable is become weaker. This is a heart of Camiga funds. The problem is often not that the investor is lack of lawful money. The problem is that the investor may have created unnecessary difficulty in proving which money specifically qualify and how the exactly capital moved. In EB5, this is distinction can matter significantly because source of fund is not just saying I earned this money. Source of funds means clearly demonstration how you lawful earn it or obtain it. Path of funds mean clearly show how the money travel from lawful origin to a final B5 investment. Commingled funds happens when the path becomes blurred because the money was unnecessarily mixed with unrelated transaction, making a documentation more difficult. It's, do you understand this part? This became particularly relevant for Brazilian investors because Brazil often present unique structural realities. Business owner may casually move money between business and personal accounts. Family may transfer fund informally. Properly, proceed may circulate through multiple accounts. Gifting may be legitimate but poorly. In poorly, when I say, is about the documentation. Heritation, when someone receives some, maybe exist, but lack of formal transfer clarity. Currency exchange step may be fragmented. None of this automatically means wrongdoing, but it can absolutely create documentation confusion. And confuses can mean scrutiny, more request for evidence, more legal explanation, more preparation time, and potentially more vulnerability. Think of this way: USIS is not trying to audit your lifestyle. USIS is trying to determine whether the specific EB-5 capital can be clearly understood. Lawful source, properly traced. That is why one of the smart practical rule for many investors is surprisingly simple. Do not necessarily mix your EB-5 funds. If you if your source is a property sale, preserve that documentation clear. If your source is a business profit, organize records carefully. If your source is heritage, documentation, transfer, and tax structures properly. If your source is a family gift, formalize this correctly. They clear your structure, they strong your narrative, and in EB5, your finance narrative matter. For many Brazilian investors, one of the smartest move is not select a regional center or project. It is organize your source before complexity become your enemy. Because many investors do not create problems because they are locked at the lawful capital. They create problems because they are creating preventable confusion. It's a bottom line. Commingled fund does not automatically destroy your EB-5 case, but it can absolutely complicate one. And immigration strategy, unnecessary complexity rarely helps. It's important to display here, okay? This video is for informational purpose only and does not replace a legal advice from a qualified U.S. immigration attorney. Always consult a qualified U.S. immigration lawyer regarding your specific EB-5 legal strategy, file, and petition. My role in my office here in Brazil here is not to replace a U.S. legal counsel. My focus from the Brazilian side is understand and help structure source of funds and the path of fund, which in Brazil taxes, finance, and documentary reality. I really appreciate you watch this video. I hope this be helpful. And I'll see you next one. Bye now.